Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurs in Fuego. We're documenting the journey of remarkable entrepreneurs, one digital footprint at a time. Mary Hall, Culture Wise.
Yes,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You brought Panchita here.
I did bring Panchita here today.
Panchita or Panchita? We haven't really decided.
We haven't decided if it's a what gender it is.
It's amorphous. We don't know.
But
it's a beautiful gift.
But it's
perfect
for today.
Oh, for the fall weather.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We always love props because they always stand up.
Enjoy.
And in fact, I believe we're going to be having, when we do our awards for the year for Entrepreneurs in Fuego, this might be a finalist right here. Panchita's big time.
Pumpkin contest.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Culture Wise. Tell us about it.
Well, Culture Wise Consulting is a boutique consulting firm focused on workplace culture. We help organizations to create their values, to hire to their values, create a strategy for engagement in the workplace, and community engagement, otherwise known as corporate social responsibility.
All right. Is it true or not that so long as you have sales, good sales, everything else falls into place? And the culture kind of falls into place. The problem is that when you're not generating enough sales, then the culture kind of, I don't care what you installed at the beginning, but things begin to shift.
At some organizations, that's true. So if you are focused on primarily sales without having a focus on your culture, most likely as soon as things aren't going as well as you expect them to, the culture will start to deteriorate. So what we do is help an organization to put together a culture that unites people. And so anyone who's been in business knows that you're going to have ups and downs. And so what you need to do is unite about the long term, not about the short term.
That's hard, though. That's very difficult. We want now.
Right.
We want things right now, particularly now more than ever. I mean, because we have technology so accessible to us nowadays that, tomorrow seems like an eternity. I mean, I can get my news right now. I can get anything I want by the push of a button. So why should I wait for my reward in the future? Why are you talking about this future?
Well, business is not an immediate return. It takes time to scale up. It takes time to build up your reputation, and it takes time to get those revenues coming in. And so if someone thinks that it's going to be an immediate Silicon Valley type of return, I think that they might not understand business so well. So why should we wait? Because it simply is we're in there for the long term. If you're in there for short-term returns, you're probably going to have a short-term business.
Is that what makes a good entrepreneur versus somebody that may have just a little bit of a shorter term type of view? Because the real entrepreneur will have a vision that nobody else is seeing it, but he or she sees, they're seeing it, and they know where they're going to go. They see that that pot of gold at the end of the day. Nobody else is seeing it, but you do.
And I believe that. Now, a great organization will have a CEO who's going to communicate that vision. That CEO is going to continuously gather their people together and help them understand what the vision is. Because until people see what the vision is, it's hard for them to be in the long term. They might see their next paycheck. A CEO who doesn't share the vision and doesn't have a vision,
right.
If they don't have a vision that is somewhat purpose-driven, then they're probably going to be focused on profits. And profits are critical in business. But if that's your only goal, then it's hard to be inspired by only money.
You had a few successful businesses, and so you grew from. So you know the pains, you have the wounds, you have the the war wounds, if you will.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, my husband and I and a small group of family members had built an organization, and we bootstrapped the business. And it actually took us a good 10 years to get to some scale.
10 years.
About 10 years to get to scale. It doesn't mean that we weren't having success along the way, But we took time to build up our technology, our infrastructure, our reputation, and after about 10 years, we secured a referral partner with Bank of America. We were a credit counseling agency and financial management. And so when we did that, it was our reputation that secured the partnership. And so that took a long time to build trust. Good reputations build trust. And so when we did that, then we grew from about 50 at that time to up to 500 employees. So along that course, we continued to focus on our values. We continued to focus on providing good service to our customers and to our partners. And that's what kept us successful. So the other thing that was really important is how we built the culture. And so you can look at the financial performance, and a lot of companies do that, but if they understand that one of their key business drivers are their people, then they're going to invest into the culture as much as they invest into other key business drivers. The moment that you realize that people are your number one asset, that you don't see on the balance sheet, what you see people on is the financial statements as an expense. And so when companies don't value their people and they get into those tough times you mentioned, one of the largest expense items on the financial statements is labor. And so when somebody is in a cost-cutting mode, that's what they do. They have layoffs. They reduce their force. They save money in the short term, but in the long term, there's some significant damages. Not to say that you don't sometimes have to let people go, but if it's your first line of controlling costs, it could be a mistake for you.
So you go into an organization and you sit down with the CEO, with the powers that be, and what would be the first questions you ask?
I would want to know about their culture as it exists. I would talk to them about how things are going.
Define culture a little bit more, because it could be such a broad term. So define it to me so that I can, kind of as a CEO, I'm sitting here, what do you mean by culture? If I don't have my people selling, then there is no culture. That's what I would say.
So the way I define culture, and there's a few definitions out there, is how you do what you do. A CEO might tell me that they're a high-performance organization, and I might say, how do you do that? And then we talk a little bit more about what's going on in the organization. How do people get along? What kind of values do they have? How do they make decisions in the organization? So culture is really about how you do what you do. It's a set of values and beliefs. There is symbolism in culture. So you can walk through an organization, just like I do at the office pile, and I
can't miss it.
I can't miss it. So, then I would talk to you about how do you work with your people? How do you work with your customers? What's your long-term vision? Culture is about not only how you work with your employees and your partners, it's about your other stakeholders in the organization. You have business partners, you have landlords, you have suppliers. One of my favorite examples of how culture works for you is with John Mackey, the head of Whole Foods. So John Mackey tells a story about when he grew his organization in the West and needed to move it back to the East. Well, he had the concept of working with all of his stakeholders. And what he needed to move from the West to the East was the support of his suppliers. And he had it because he treated them like valuable stakeholders. And so, I look at culture and I say, it's how you do what you do, but it doesn't end at the front door.
It is not just you're the leader, you're the employer, and there's the employees. It extends to every single individual that you touch throughout your organization. Vendors, being the person that delivers the mail. I mean, everybody. It extends to everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and that's why I promote values, because values are something that you'll carry with you no matter where you go. So if you're sitting in a very difficult meeting with decisions being made that have money on the table, but maybe that's going to be in violation of your values, you're going to bring those values into play in the conversation. And when you do that, and if it doesn't get a little bit uncomfortable, you probably haven't picked values that are serious enough, because it's not just about how you treat people, it's about how you make your decisions.
That's so cool. Tell us about Panchita here. I mean, you did this. You did this yourself.
I did it myself.
What a great gift. Look at this. I mean, look at the work. I mean, it just took. Look, I feel so honored, and you've been. You know, this is the kind of gift that you just. It's gonna be like about 3 years from now, and I'll send you a picture. It'll be like all like squished up and stuff and rotten up and everything else. I don't want to throw it away.
Right.
But with the benefit of video, of course, we will preserve
we got it.
Panchita here, which we named Panchita very affectionately right now. And did you wear the orange like to match with the?
I thought about it. It's the season. It's the season.
This is okay. You look terrific with the colors and everything else. So this is terrific.
Well, I love this. I was so excited to sit in front of this backdrop.
This backdrop right here.
Anyone who knows me knows how excited I am to be here. Absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
Thank you so much. Look. Here's the thing about you. It's just what fascinates me is that to be able to grasp what companies do in terms of their culture, in terms of their employees, in terms of the people that they touch and everything else. It's truly an art. It's not too much scientific, because at the end of the day you're dealing with emotions, with behaviors, with people. And you can throw in all the scientific management behind a company, but it's very, very subjective at the end of the day. I mean, and what you do is just, you kind of have to analyze what those values are for each company and so on and so forth.
Now, there is a bottom line impact. And so in my background as a CPA,
sure,
I look at this not only from the heart but from the head. And so there's a humanitarian aspect to this, but there's also a bottom line impact. So as you study culture and you look at some of the best cultures, you'll hear about best places to work, you'll hear about the most admired companies. Fortune magazine has the best 100 companies. So what happens is that anytime you have a great culture, you're attracting the top performers. You're retaining the top performers. The top performers are doing what? They're performing.
Sure.
And so when it comes to things like competition, innovation, getting projects out the door, the better your culture is, the better your people are going to get along, and the higher performance you're going to receive. The things that good companies have in terms of their culture are the higher retention. Bad cultures have high turnover. All turnover is not bad, but there is a problem when you're losing your best people. And it's easy in this day and age with technology. There's recruiters out there all the time trying to recruit your best people away from you. So culture is a defensive mechanism, it's a competitive advantage, and it's something that I would say, if you go down that path, treat it like a key business driver. The top person in the organization should be at the table talking about culture.
A good leader will make you feel safe.
Absolutely, and trust is essential.
Culture, it doesn't matter, in what I'm hearing from you, it doesn't matter if you're a two-man operation or if you're, a 1,000-person operation. It has to go, it has to permeate, it has to start from the bottom all the way.
If you're a two-person organization, it's like a marriage. If you don't have discussions about what your values are, you're probably going to behave in different ways. You will anyways, but you've got this common ground about who you are and how you approach situations. Because most people get along great when things are wonderful. It's when you get into conflict, it's when you get into situations that add a little stress. And then if people don't have something to hold on to, such as a set of values, they start to collide.
Can you come back during Christmas and bring us like a little Christmas?
Absolutely.
This fascinates me. As I can talk to you all day.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, she charges by the minute.
She does.
Yeah.
How much? I got a little bit of change in my pocket. Because I love to talk about culture.
It always amazes me. I have a little bit of an ambivalent feeling about culture and whatnot, and I'm a little bit jaded in the sense that if you're rocking in sales, everything else kind of falls into. In fact, Mark Cuban said that, right? Every problem in your organization is solved with sales. That's it. It's done.
Right.
But at the same time, it is that culture, it is that foundation that will sustain you through the thin times. If
Right.
you don't have that, then you falter.
You know, it's
Right.
funny because Mark Cuban, if you presented the same question to him and you put it in terms of sports, and if he looked at his team and he said, how does my team do when the culture is good on
Sure.
the team versus how about when my players aren't getting along?
Right.
And if you use that kind of example and then translate it into business, it's not a lot different. People get excited to go in and work with a team that they want to be with. And they don't get excited about going in and working with a team that's toxic. And
Interesting.
one of the things I love to talk about with people is what I call the toxic spillover effect. So in my organization, I say build a better workplace culture, build a better world. And the reason I say that, as lofty as it is because when you're working in an organization and it's toxic, when you leave there that day, you usually leave with some of that toxicity in your system. It's not good for your health. You go home to your family, your friends, wherever you go, and you're carrying that weight. And so some people will go home, they're stressed, they've got that impact. They're not as happy, they're not as present with whoever they spend that time with. And they dread going in the next day. They feel like prisoners. And so I like to say that when you have an organization of any size, it's an incredible opportunity. It's an incredible opportunity to have a business, but it's also an incredible opportunity to make a difference in the lives of others.
Corporate detox. Maybe there's a corporate detox business in there somewhere, Marion.
Maybe.
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 There you go. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
With that, we're at.